But when you weave some of those things in, then the person who's on the other side of the screen and is like looking at your website and is like, oh, she, used it to help her with anxiety. Oh, like they just feel connected to you. So, yes, I would say if you're shying away from personal stories, it doesn't mean you have to talk about everything under the sun, but finding the things that you're willing to talk with people when you're digging through a closet, you can weave some of those same things into your marketing without like, giving away everything that you you don't have to gossip about your family or anything. So, there's a balance. There's a balance in that too.
Hey, hey, and welcome to the Speak Organized podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Summers, professional organizer, ADHD organizing specialist, and your go-to gal for all things pro organizing business. I like to speak organized to give you the tools to conquer your clutter, live life with more purpose, and learn all about the business of tidying. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, go ahead and pull out your device and tap that subscribe button so that you become a member of the Speaker fam. And as you get value out of today's episode and you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and tap the notification bell so that you're notified whenever we post new content every single week. And if you're an Apple Podcast user, you can go ahead and leave us a rave 5-star review, which helps boost our ratings and helps the channel grow so that we can reach more amazing people just like you looking to get into the professional organizing industry. And I want you to join us in the free Facebook community, the I Speak Organized Professional Organizers Network. If you have questions and you're just looking for some of that genuine connection and you need to get some advice, that's the perfect place to be. The information to join that group is going to be down in the description of the video and the podcast show notes.
The main mission here at I Speak Organized is to give you the best quality tools and resources to level up your business and have a truly successful 6 or 7-figure business that doesn't suck away all of your time. So if you're brand new to all of this and it seems very overwhelming, you don't really know where to start, you have come to the right place. I am your go-to gal for all things pro organizing business. If you're afraid that you aren't enough, like you don't have enough experience or you don't really have the goods to bring to the table to charge what other people charge or whatever story you happen to be telling yourself, I am here to help you understand that you can be exceptional with the right tools and training. So in just a few minutes, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how I can help you with that. But in the meantime, let's get into this juicy interview.
All right, Speaker fam, please join me in welcoming Molly Winters. She is the owner of Molly Winters Copywriting, and she's going to school us up and tell us why having good copywriting is so important in your business. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Melanie. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, and happy to have you finally. We live in the same state. You grew up in the town where I currently live. We've got a lot of things in common, but we haven't had a chance to really hang out. So I'm excited for this interview for that purpose, among other things. And I also want to kind of dive into your background a little bit just to get started. I would love to learn a little bit more about, so you were a professional organizer before you were a copywriter, correct?
I was, yeah, a long time ago though. It was like 2007 to 2010. I loved it. I love organizing, still do. But, got married, had kids, moved a whole bunch of times, and I needed to do something else. And so that's, then I stumbled upon copywriting. So, but
Yeah,
yes, I love organizing, still do.
love that. Well, it makes sense now that you work primarily with the home service-based industry to help us out with our needs in running our business. So I would love to learn a little bit more about that transition
Yeah.
into copywriting. So how does your background in organizing influence your approach to writing for us?
Oh, absolutely. Right. So I think first and foremost, it's just that I'm passionate about it. I do love what organizers do. I call you guys the helpers of the world because I think it's just so true. Like that Fred Rogers quote about Mr. Rogers saying, look for the helpers. I think organizers are that because I know how much you guys pour into it and how much it's so beyond just stuff, right? And
Mhm.
just organizing stuff and emotional and like mental it can be. So because I'm passionate about that, it just makes me excited about writing along those lines and in those topics. But the way I came across it was actually I organized for an office in Bellingham, Washington, and I organized for them and they asked me if I would want to come on as their director of operations and like kind of just help them organize in general. So
Wow.
I took that job, and that was as we yeah, and but excuse me, as we, as I got older and I did get married, I needed something more flexible, so I started working in their marketing department. And when I worked in their marketing department, I started helping them with their blog and writing copy for their products. And I didn't even know that copywriting was a thing. And that's where I started to discover it and discover a passion for it. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I
Mm.
love how it all just sort of evolves organically and
Yeah.
if the opportunities present themselves where they are. And I know
Yeah.
you've been a writer of sorts your whole life. We're going to dive into that in a minute.
Sure.
But as far as it's applicable to our audience listening and watching,
Yeah.
I would love to learn because I think what you said just a minute ago is really important. You didn't even know copywriting was a thing. So I imagine that if you didn't know, a lot of people listening and watching may be confused by it. They might not know what it is.
Exactly.
So I would love for you to kind of just dive into what copywriting is and then tell us about one of your favorite writing techniques,
Sure.
whatever comes to mind.
Okay. So first I'll tell you what copywriting is. You might have to remind me about the other part of the question when
No worries.
so copywriting itself, and if you don't know what it is, that's completely understandable. My family still doesn't really fully know what it is. So copywriting itself is it's the writing that we do in business that gets people to take action. So copywriting really has a very specific purpose. There's a lot that goes into it before you even write a single word. And so, but when we run a business, when we're entrepreneurs, we tend to think of content writing. So content writing is, blogs, articles, social media posts. And then the tricky thing though is they blend. So
Well,
in your social media posts, you want some copywriting skills because you want people to take action from those things, right? So it really is a blend of both, but when we're doing copy, when we're copywriting, we want to be thinking about the reader and what action we're trying to get them to take, like what the goal is. So there's really a specific purpose when it comes to copy. And then you asked about a method, right? Or
yes.
like how to do it. So
Yes.
I teach a method called the relate writing method because what I found was when I discovered copywriting and really got into it, it was so much more than I realized. And there's a real skill set to it. So there's all sorts of tips and tricks that I can teach. But what I found was when I started to teach those things, it became like a checklist people wanted to do, like,
Mm.
oh, I'm gonna just like cross off these things. And really what it comes down to is, like, the reader and the heart of the matter and, like, so not psyching yourself out about your writing because when we're doing our business, so many people are overwhelmed at the idea like, sitting down to write a website, for example. Like, that
Right.
is just people are just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm writing a website," and they get really overwhelmed. So my method walks them through a process that helps them make it more approachable and a little, more authentic and makes it just easier to do. So, yeah. Yeah.
I love that. That's very cool. I can relate to that. I've taken a few copywriting courses over the course of my business life, and I find it very fascinating. All the different types, short form, long form, like, you know, all these
Yeah.
different all these different strategies. And you're right. I think one of the common challenges is people get very formulaic about it
Right.
and
Yeah,
people
they
tell
want
that it's fake.
and they want me to give them a formula, and like and there are formulas, there are, like, processes you can use, but what I find is when you learn those first, it's
Eh,
like putting the cart before the horse, right? So
mm,
then you're doing this formulaic thing, and you're like, "I'm checking all the boxes, I'm doing all the things," but really and this is my spin on copywriting, is getting to the heart of the matter, and I think
mhm.
it works perfectly when you're working in people's homes, like, it's such a personal job when you're there in someone's home, and really we have to tap into that piece of it, and that's what I try to do and help people do, so, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just to kind of
Yeah.
unpack that just a smidge more,
Yeah.
what do you so we kind of have touched on the general challenges of being a little bit too formulaic, a little bit less emotionally driven, which doesn't work in our industry, as you pointed out. Are there any other
Yeah.
common mistakes that you see organizers or design professionals making in their copy?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple. The first one that I always like to say is I would say they forget to think about the reader, especially when you're, like, writing a website or something. You just sit down and think, "Oh, I need to describe what I do," and we tend to think, like, elevator pitch or very, you know, professional hat on, and we get kind of stuffy and freak ourselves out instead of like taking a breath, stepping back for a moment. What I always recommend people do is think about when you meet someone for the first time. Like you get that phone call and someone's like, I might want to talk to you about organizing. They're a little nervous, right? And the things you say to them on the phone or on the Zoom consultation or the first in-person meeting, the things that you say to make them feel at ease, to make them feel comfortable, and that leads them to deciding, "Oh, yeah, this is something I wanna do." Sometimes we say those things really well, and we
Mhm.
know how to make someone feel at ease because we have that understanding of human connection, but then we go to sit down and write our websites and we, like, freak ourselves out. Sometimes those things that you say are actually what you can put in your writing that will help lead people to, the action of calling you or sending an email or what have you. So, does that
Mhm.
answer your question? I've kinda went down a rabbit hole. I
No,
don't even know
yeah,
where.
no, that's great. It
Yeah.
definitely leads into my next question because writing, as you mentioned, is a very specific skill, and we often communicate verbally much better
Yeah.
than we do in writing. But what I want people listening and watching to understand is that if you have the right copy on your website, it does the thing that you want it to do. You're attracting clients, not just leads, but you're attracting
Yeah.
actual paying clients. You're connecting with your ideal customer. So
Exactly.
I don't want obviously, we're not giving away all the stuff because this conversation
Oh,
would go on for days.
right, right, but I'm happy to help with tips and so forth, but
Yeah, if there's
yeah,
any, like, specific strategy just to get
sure.
somebody started that they
Oh,
might
yeah, absolutely.
recommend.
And actually, I remembered because your question was, what are some of the common mistakes? So, one thing I see, especially with organizers, because everything is so personal that sometimes it's hard to put yourself out there. So, as the organizer themselves, I have seen so many websites where I can't even find who's behind the scenes. Like
Mm.
I'll see the name of the company and a beautiful logo and beautiful imagery on the website, but I can't find who the organizer is, or it's really hard to get there. So I recommend that you definitely put your photo on, of course. I've gone to about pages where I can't even find the name of the person. And so make sure you are on your website. Even if you're not a personal brand, you're still part of it. Like you are the biggest asset to your business. And
Mhm.
so you need to be there because that's what people want to get to know. If they're bringing you into your home, they need to get to know you and your personality. And that's why it's important to kind of like, chill a little bit and bring the like comfortable vibe to your website with language. You can still be completely professional, but you can write the way that you talk. You can use words that you would use in your language and so forth. But as far as like actual tips and tricks, one of the easiest ones that you can do is just go through your copy and look anywhere that you use the word I, like I'm an organizer, I do this, I love organizing, and flip it and see if you can use you instead. Sometimes it's interchangeable. Sometimes you can actually just flip it. But the word you, YOU, is really important in copy because again, we're thinking about the reader. And when you're reading a website and you feel like it's talking to you, you're much more inclined to connect with the writer, with the person behind the words. And so really just going through your copy and looking for anywhere that you have I and seeing if you can swap it for you is a really good trick to just make it more engaging and so forth. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, allowing the customer to see themselves within your writing is super
Yeah.
powerful.
And
Yeah.
that's like the fundamental of copy. So, if I were trying to talk through like the process when you're writing for a customer or writing for your business, there's so much that goes into it for copywriters before we even write a word. So, in my method, the A in relate is action.
Mm.
That's when you start writing. There's REL before you even get to the writing. So, thinking of a real person and like what they need and what they want is like an important piece, and thinking of the reader and where they are emotionally, the kind of words they need to hear to help them kind of be just led down the path to call you or sign up or whatever the action is you want them to take. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I
yeah.
love that. Those are great tips. Now, so for me as a business owner, I
Yeah.
really live in the space of authenticity, and I almost veer too far in the direction of not being as professional. So there's a line and there's a way to be authentic while also being professional. So what advice do you have for us that are trying to find that balance of professionalism versus the personal flair?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. And I have to say, Melanie, I love your style and that you can see your personality shine through right away. And I think that's important. And
Yeah,
but we're not all dancers. We're not all going to get on Instagram and so I
exactly.
totally get that. Like your listeners are probably like, "Oh my gosh, I love Melanie, but my like what's my style?" And I think
Exactly.
that's the thing is just figuring out like what works for you as a business owner because really marketing is all about visibility. And so being in front of people can be scary, can be daunting. And figuring out what piece of you people relate to. So you might be an introvert and quiet and not someone who's going to be loud and boisterous, but you can still be friendly and warm and engaging and be professional. You can still have that balance. And I think the trick is so when I do copy reviews for people, which is where I just like scan through their website and give them feedback and suggestions and so forth. One of the things I'll frequently say is like, "Oh, would you really say it that way or would and it's little things sometimes. It's like talking about I help busy individuals. I never in conversation am like, I help busy individuals. I say I help busy people. So
Mhm.
just that one little thing, it's not less professional. So really just looking at the way we approach writing, I think is the core theme here is
Mhm.
and so you can still have that personality and still be professional. So does
Yeah,
that answer your question kind of? It's not
sure
a
does.
specific tip. It's so one thing this is a tip that people could try is and if you are an introvert, this will feel awkward at first, but I promise just push through it and get through it. But you can just open your like voice memo app on your phone, walk around the house, your kids and your dog will like look at you goofy and be like, "What are you doing?" But just talk through it out loud and
Mhm.
push through the awkward phase of like what am I saying? And just describe what you do, how you do it, your process, anything that you would want to write about, and just talk it through. And when you do loosen up, when you get through the first few awkward moments, then you get to the good stuff and you get to the nuggets where you're like, oh, that's a really, like, that's a natural way. Because what we're trying to do is unearth those natural ways of describing
Mm.
things. And don't get me wrong, there's a reason I write for other people. It's much easier to write it for other people than for yourself. When you're
True.
writing your own stuff, it's hard, but doing some of those kind of things can help loosen you up and get to the nuggets, the really good natural stuff.
All right, fam, imagine this. You are sitting here in 6 months, sitting right where you are now, and you're running your own professional organizing business that is effortlessly scaling to 6 figures. How awesome would that be? But let me guess, you're sitting here today and you've got that voice of imposter syndrome whispering in your ear, who am I to do this? Well, let me tell you, I have been there, and it is not only possible to overcome those doubts, it is essential because your future clients are looking for you, not anybody else, you. So, how do you scale a 6-figure business? It's easy. You stick with me. I got you. It is my honor to introduce you to my Empowered Organizer membership community, which is a game changer for turning your passion into, if you want, a full-time 6-figure gig. We've got done-for-you scripts and resources, collaborative monthly coaching calls, and a supportive community to fast-track your success by avoiding all the superfluous fluff and, of course, all the dumb mistakes that I've made over the years so that you don't have to make the same ones. You're welcome. Head to melaniesummerscoaching.com/empowered-organizer to learn more and enroll today. And don't worry, it's kind of like your favorite streaming subscription service. You can cancel anytime and renew when you want. And if that weren't convincing enough, let me give you just a little taste of the treasure trove that you'll find when you head to ispeakorganized.com/courses. First, you'll definitely want to check out my Overbooked course, packed with golden nuggets to help you get clients and fill your calendar so that you can work full-time as a professional organizer. Or if you need a little personalized guidance, my one-on-one coaching sessions are perfect for getting your most burning questions answered, helping you move forward confidently. Or how about I save you loads of precious time with my professional organizer forms pack, 9 done-for-you customizable forms, including a client agreement, so that you can start taking paying clients ASAP. And don't miss my ChatGPT prompt guide with over 750 prompts to optimize tasks like social media captions, blog posts, and more, engineered for success every time. Again, visit ispeakorganized.com/courses to explore all these options and more. Are you ready to take the leap? Visit the link. I know you want to.
Yeah, yeah. I think what is going to be important for some people is to know that they have a person like you in their corner, because you're absolutely right. It is very difficult to know what other people find valuable in what you're saying or doing unless you ask them.
Yeah.
Um, so it's nice to have an objective person look at it and see your business from that lens and kind of help you out with that. So it's nice to know that that exists out there
Yes,
for us.
yes. But at the same time, I think the biggest, and I hope this is coming through loud and clear, the biggest thing that I see, especially with organizers, right? We want to get it right. And
Yeah.
remember, I was one, so I can relate. I know how you feel. You want to get it right. You don't want to put something out in the world that doesn't, look nice or presentable and so forth. But again, I think it's going back to those moments where you do really well in person, and even introverts might feel like, "Oh, but I don't know what to say in person." But when they get going, even working with a client, like in one of
Right.
those sessions, you're in a 5-hour session. What are the things you talk about with your clients? What are the things that you relate with on? If it's movies or show, like whatever it is, that real person, that human connection, that's where it is. And then it helps you feel more at ease if you can just think about it like that.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I okay, so that leads me perfectly into the next question, which is
Oh,
all
you're welcome. Yay.
it's all about storytelling in copywriting. So you mentioned,
Yeah.
the aspect of what do you talk about when you're in the middle of that session with your client? So how
Yeah.
important do you feel is story writing in the copy for organizers and designers? So what elements make compelling story that could resonate with potential
Yeah.
clients before they've met you?
Well, that's a great question because, like, I know that you work with folks with ADHD and you yourself have ADHD. And so, yeah, exactly, right? So do my husband and my son. And
Yeah.
that is immediately what I'm talking about. Like the fact that then I'm like, oh, my husband does. Or, and you find ways to relate with people through that. So
Mhm.
it's the same thing, like finding those stories, those threads that are through your own business and this natural, like our conversation now, just our organic, progression through my background through to what I do now. So
Yeah.
same with in your business, if you can bring those stories that you relate with people on in your business, whether it's your niche, if you have one, or the different specialties that you have, and just connecting with them on those kinds of stories. Yeah, stories are big. You definitely can weave those in because and people say that people don't read anymore, but they do. We read still, and that's what we need to make it engaging. So if someone has ADHD and is struggling with it at home and they read a story that you tell about it, they automatically connect with you. It stirs up the emotions, the good feels, and that's what we're trying to do. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and builds authentic connection. I hesitated for a long time in presenting and in writing about sharing personal stories or things that felt like it made me less of an expert, and I think a lot of organizers can relate to that.
Yes.
You don't
Yeah.
wanna show the vulnerable or the less pretty aspects of your life because you're afraid
Yes.
of being judged, but the inverse actually happens, right? When you do that?
Absolutely, 100%. So, like, I am an anxious person. I was as a kid, I am now. Like, my anxiety is something I love to connect with people on because I know things that can maybe help them. They know things that can help me. And when I talk about that, it just builds that connection. And I actually wrote for an organizer who told me about her anxiety and that was actually a big fuel to her organizing skill. Like it just helped. It was like her coping mechanism. And as soon as you bring some of that in, it doesn't mean you have to air your dirty laundry, but when you weave some of those things in, then the person who's on the other side of the screen and is like looking at your website and is like, oh, she, used it to help her with her anxiety. Oh, like they just feel connected to you. So, yes, I would say if you're shying away from personal stories, it doesn't mean you have to talk about everything under the sun, but finding the things that you're willing to talk with people when you're digging through a closet, you can weave some of those same things into your marketing without like, giving away everything that you you don't have to gossip about your family or anything. So there's a
Exactly.
balance. There's a balance in that too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we've all got stuff. We've all had
Exactly.
experiences.
And isn't that who you wanna work with?
Yes.
Anytime you hire someone, you wanna hire someone who, like, gets you and
Yes.
gets it, and especially if it's about your own home, right? Like, if you're bringing someone in. So yeah, and this is again, this is just my common thread, the hill I will die on, is I just think we know more than we think we know.
Mm,
So copywriting, sure, you might not know all the skills and so forth, but you know internally what connects with people.
mhm.
So, sure, you might not be able to like check off all the boxes of super duper copywriting, but you do know internally what connects with people because you do it when you're in person with them. And so I think that's the space. Like trusting yourself to know how to do this is a big part. But isn't that true with all of business, right? Like business is
Yes.
just a total personal journey. And so
Mhm.
that's why I think marketing is a real head trip for people because it is. It's just like, oh gosh, what do I put out there? So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to switch gears just a little bit and get kind of nerdy. This is the stuff that, people kind of cross their eyes and walk away.
Yeah,
Uh
that's great.
when I bring this topic up, and we could do an entire separate podcast episode on this. This is a topic that I dive really heavy into because I'm a part introvert, but also because I'm really busy and I don't have the time to be out there, doing all the networking and the writing and this and that. And so this is a strategy on your site that is kind of more of a technical aspect of copywriting. SEO best practices, one of my
Oh,
favorite topics. Okay. So, this is a big part of your job. It's a big part of what you are scanning the page for when you're looking at the emotional storytelling connection versus the actual, like, logistical be friendly with Google piece.
yes, right.
So, what are some best practices for
That's
SEO that organizers and designers should incorporate in their website to improve their copy with visibility and reach specifically in mind?
right. That's a really good question, and I will say, first and foremost, I myself am not the or SEO expert behind the scenes. I actually hire out with a colleague who does all of the research, all because there's so much that goes into SEO, right? Like, you don't wanna just hire someone who's like, "Yeah, I can do SEO," right? Like, you really wanna know that they know their stuff, and so that's
Mhm,
why I don't even say, "Hey, I'll do your SEO for you." I partner with someone who does the deep dive, gives me the words and so forth. And
mhm,
then I do what's called on page SEO. So that's the writing. That's where I take what they gave me and I'm like, oh, putting it in the right places. So some of those things would be like title tags of your website, like the tags, the H1, which is basically just header. So making sure that some of these words are in the right place is really important. The other thing that I think is simple and people kind of overlook is your location. If you're an in-person service, make sure your location is all over,
mhm,
and sometimes we'll put like a list of towns that you serve and making sure that that's on your website as well. That can be really helpful.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I can go on like you said, this could be like an entire episode itself. Are there anything specific you're wondering about as
No,
far
no, that was kind of it, was really sort of like the understanding of how to blend the technical research aspect of it with the actual copy.
Yeah. Well, this is the other piece of that is that when people are trying to do SEO and they have this list of things, they're like, oh, again, it's all about that mindset, right? They're like, oh
Mhm,
my gosh, SEO. And so it changes their style. So
mhm.
much SEO has evolved over time. Remember like those pages that used to just be like word stuffed, like keyword
Yes,
stuffed, and
keyword stuff.
you would read
That
it
was
and you'd be
awful.
like, "Oh my gosh, like this is terrible."
I still see that.
Yeah, that's true. It's still out there, but it's not as effective as it once
No.
was because Google got smarter, right? Our little
Right.
robots have gotten smarter, darn them. And so it needs to be natural. So that's why things like blogs and so forth are good because you're putting more on the page. You're getting more out there. It's Google wants to know not only that you're hitting these keywords, but that you are genuinely helping people with this, that like you're an actual resource for this topic. And
Eh,
so they have gotten smarter to like figure out if it's a natural flow. So when you're writing with a list of words in mind, it's almost better to just like free write and then go back and see like, oh, right there, I could switch this to that keyword, and that kind of thing. Because you don't want it to become really formulaic once again. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The
absolutely.
other thing with SEO too that's tricky is word count. So, as organizers, we like things nice and neat and clean, but you do
Mhm,
need words on the page. And I know the follow-up question will be how many words, and that's the kind of thing I never really wanna get into because it depends, but
mhm,
I will say it's more than you want it to be, like,
mhm.
as an organizer, that's one of the pushback things I'll get is they want to improve their SEO, but they don't wanna put many words on the page, and we really
Right.
do need words on there for Google to have things to comb through. So there are some tricks with that even, that you can do, like having your testimonials, make sure it's not a picture of a
Mhm,
testimonial, but have the actual words on the page because then it gives Google something, more words to come through. If you are putting your, like, client's first name and, like, last initial, then do comma and the town name. Like, again,
mm.
it's just another way of getting your location in there. So just some of these little things, titling your photos. When you're putting a photo on a website, the file name that you upload can have the keywords in them as well. So just some of these things that you can be doing,
Those
can
are
really help.
great tips, great
Oh, good.
tips. I love that you brought
Well,
all that up.
cool.
And it's funny that you talk about word count, and we're not gonna get into this, but I have, like it's a very hottily debated, controversial topic, and I've had people actually, I can remember at a conference one time, I had somebody, actually be, aggressively upset with me that I had put out a number. One time they were like, "That doesn't matter," and I was like, it does, sister, let me
Yeah.
tell you." I worked with an SEO specialist who introduced me to the concept of thin content. So, his suggestion was anything 400 words or less is considered thin content.
Sure.
You want but again, like you said, it's subjective, it depends. You're gonna wanna put more than you actually want on the page.
Yes. I know, that is the trick. Well, also because I've also had SEO experts, and the one that I work with closely, I trust her hands down. She's so, so good,
Okay.
and she talks about splitting out your services. So rather than having a services page that's like, everything you do under the sun, if
Right.
you do moves and unpacks, having that be one page. If you do hands-on home residential organizing, having that be one page. If you do photo organizing, having that be another page. That all gets into like niching and maybe having too many things going on as well. But making sure that, making sure that you have things separated within what you do can be really good for SEO too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
I guess
someone
I'm gonna
who's
have you back for this topic.
Yeah, yeah. So, one more thing, just because I do get I nerd out about these things too. When
Yeah.
it comes to SEO, especially if you're listening and you're, like, brand new to SEO or you're just like, "Oh my gosh, this," nodding off, falling asleep. The key thing with SEO is similar to copywriting. You gotta think about the person who's searching. You gotta start with the person behind the screen. So, someone that's looking for move management services is typing something into Google that is far different than someone who struggles with ADHD and doesn't know how to, get their desk organized. It's like the searching person is going to be typing in different things. So again, always going back to the reader and thinking about what they're looking for, what they're searching for. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, which is good segue into this next thing. So you mentioned this sort of at the beginning. The one of the core pieces of copywriting's what's the word I'm looking for here? Like the objective
Yes.
of copywriting is the call to action, the CTA, the action you want somebody to take. So
Yeah.
just share a couple of tips on crafting effective CTAs to encourage potential clients to engage and take the next step, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it goes back to that pre-work of thinking about where the person is in in their journey, like with you. So if this is like the part of your website or the part of your email sequence where they've just heard about you, it's not going to be by now, right? Because that's like,
Mhm.
oh, hold on, we're jumping the horse here. We're getting too far ahead of ourselves. We want to think about the customer journey and where they are. And so the call to action should be kind of relevant with where they are in that journey. If they've just gotten to know you, it might be like, read read the full story, just really thinking about where they are and what action we want them to take. But we do always want the word, like the first word, if we can, to involve that action, to involve the, like, download the guide,
Mhm.
join the membership, these kinds of action words that we use. And then the other thing too is just, and now I think everybody knows about this, but using those little buttons that you can do to get it to stand out and like have people see the call to action as
Mhm.
well is really useful and effective. But there's different ways to weave them into your copywriting. Like on a website or on a sales page, you want it to be an isolated button. Within an email, sometimes it's a button, but sometimes it's a link, and you want them to click that link. And a key thing with email marketing is we tend to write emails and have so many different places we're sending people to, when
Yeah.
really we should try to keep it to one call to action. Like we need to know, like, what's the next step and make it really simple. So, yeah.
Mhm. Oh, that is my biggest downfall, and I've been really trying to work on, my weekly newsletter,
Yeah.
not having too many CTAs,
It's
but
hard.
it is hard,
It's
and
hard
I
because you
also
you get excited and you wanna send them like, "Oh my gosh, go learn this thing," and, "Oh my gosh, and
exactly.
did you watch that episode of and it's just like, because you are having fun with it too, and
Oh,
so yeah,
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
and I'm a data nerd, so I'm always looking at my insights to see, like, what links perform the best, and
yeah,
then it comes time for me to, like, narrow it down, I'm like, "Oh, I can't do it." So, anyway,
yeah, yeah.
that's a personal problem. Curious about, as you mentioned, specifically with SEO, but I know this is true in copywriting as well, because especially for business, the way that we go about this, there's always somebody new that's coming up with a new strategy or a new process
Sure.
or whatever. So, what are some evolving copywriting trends that you have seen over the past few years,
Sure.
and what is applicable to our industry?
Well, first, I will say I am not a trendy person. I am not one that's very, like, I'm just not trendy. I'm just gonna say it. But when it comes to copywriting trends, I actually find this one kind of funny because I went to a virtual conference just a few months ago that was for marketers, for copywriters, for digital marketers, people like me that are helping people get more visible. And it was like over 22,000 people had signed up for this thing. It was like a huge virtual
Whoa.
conference of people like me. And they kept talking about, in 2025, we're going to, see how everyone's talking about personalization and adding in, which within copy and within email marketing, that's like making sure the first name gets in there, making sure, like, using segmenting within email marketing so that
Yeah.
you know that the right emails are going to the right person. So, an example of what that means is when someone signs up for like an event of mine, I will sometimes have check boxes for if you're an organizer, a designer, other, and then that way I can customize what I'm sending so that it is more personalized.
Mhm.
A designer doesn't always need to get an email that's about organizing and so
Right.
forth. So really thinking in those terms, but I thought it was funny that at this big conference they were talking about personalization and how it was a trend, and really honestly that's what I've been talking about since the beginning, is just human connection. We just need to be more personal. I think the digital age has like distracted us from that, and we kind of forget, oh yeah, we're just talking to people, like,
Right.
we're really just trying to find those ways we connect, which is honestly what we're all just doing in life, right? And so like when you can just use those human connection pieces, you're on trend, is basically what I'm trying to say, is that then you are on trend with those big huge marketing conferences.
Mhm.
And then the other one is just AI. AI is not going anywhere. So I will say it's really useful with content writing. So I definitely am a promoter of like using it for things like ideas for blog posts or gathering research for that, even things like captions and so on and so forth. So anyhow, those would be the two. AI is not going to be going anywhere. So using that and personalization, human connection
Mhm.
in your writing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, timeless strategies. We're going for
Exactly.
timeless versus trendy for sure.
Yes, yes, right.
Although I'm sitting here thinking like, gosh, maybe I need to segment my email list. That's a problem we can talk about off camera.
Yeah,
Um,
but I think but again, as organizers, we wanna do everything right, and so we tend to, like, not do something, like, we tend to just be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do email marketing perfect because I heard I'm supposed to segment, I'm supposed to have one and so it's like, instead, just do it. Just do
yep,
it. It doesn't have to be perfect, just do it. Yeah,
exactly. Yep,
yeah.
I live and die by that. I'm a spaghetti
Yeah,
master.
good.
So I just to kind of wrap things up. We have
Sure.
two more little questions here. I love to end the episode by asking my esteemed guests for their advice to share. So for anybody in the organizing and design fields, if you're just starting or you're just looking to improve your copywriting, what are resources or best practices that you recommend?
Oh, that's a good question. So, one great resource is Copy Hackers. If you look up Joanna Weeb, I've been through her programs of Copy School, and that's like you don't need to take those unless you are looking to change professions and become a copywriter. But their blog is chock full of really good useful tips about things like call to actions, and just educating yourself about what copywriting is. You also can come and learn my relate writing method, which we already talked about some of the steps, a real person, considering emotions and things like that. But yeah, I would say Copy Hackers is just a super valuable resource. Yeah.
Yeah, they are fabulous.
Have you
I think yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. She's incredible too. Like when you get in that community, it's just a great place to learn as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, but you're right, it's definitely for people who aspire to copywriting as an actual like, that's
right.
their thing.
Yeah, if you take those courses, you will get deep in the weeds on data and a lot of things that like you don't need to know at the level of, go organize and then,
Exactly.
read some blog posts. You don't need to deep dive in it like we do. So, yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So I do want to give everybody a chance to connect with you and learn a little bit more about some of the offers that you have, but before that, I got my fun question for you. I know that you have been writing your whole life,
I have. I have.
in various different capacities. So, I've heard that you have written some, like, sci-fi fan fiction,
When I was
um,
a kid, oh yes, that's
all
right.
kinds of fun stuff. I'm sure you were a live journal aficionado.
Oh, really, actually, the interesting thing, and this I talk about this sometimes when I speak, is I wouldn't call myself a writer for the longest time. I would
Mhm.
write all of this stuff, but blogging, hell no, I'm not putting that stuff out. And like, when I was a kid, yeah, that was when I was a big nerd, and I wrote it was specifically X Files fan fiction.
Amazing.
Yeah, yep, that's right. I actually have a Mulder and Scully Barbie doll in my china hutch because I am a big nerd.
Oh, love it.
So so that was the kind of stuff I wrote as a kid. I also, read the, like, One Last Wish series. I was really big on those when I was a kid, so I was writing, like, just these big stories, but characters. I've always been attracted to people and how they interact and character-driven stories as I matured and got beyond, X-Files and so forth.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious, as my last sort of fun question, just given that background, of your experience, what is your favorite style of writing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't even know how to categorize different styles as far as what I love. Anything with really good characters. My favorite book of all time is The Brothers K by David James Duncan, and it's actually set in Battleground, Washington, of all places. Yeah, it's like a family, and it's epic. It's a big, thick book. Fiction, hands down, is my favorite. Like I love reading fiction. I know I'm supposed to, like, read all the business books and all the copywriting books and stuff, but it's really fiction that I pick up. So any of those stories where they're weaving together, like, people's stories and different characters, and that's what that book is just this epic journey of different people and different times. So,
Are we
yeah.
gonna see you writing any fiction in the future, do you think?
Yes, I will get that is my, original passion, and that's actually part of why I'm passionate about helping organizers and other business owners connect with, like, the heart of the matter in their writing, and like the fear and trusting yourself is because of that phase where I wouldn't call myself a writer. It really wasn't until people started paying me to write for them that I would call myself a writer. Like, not even to my family or anything like that, because it was such a personal like head trip. So yes, I will be getting back to fiction one day. I don't do much of it now, but as my kids get older, I know that I will get back to it. So it's a
That's awesome.
true passion. So
Yeah, it's a hard thing. My husband is also a writer, but he's got a full-time job, and he likes to write science fiction.
oh, cool.
So,
Very nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting, but he doesn't have a ton of time to do it, obviously, for various different reasons that are very similar to you in your life, and
Yeah. And it is work. Like, I think that's the
it
thing.
is.
People envision writers as like, oh, this like dreamy writing beside a river in a cabin. And it's like, no, it's work. It's like you gotta sit down, and it's like hard, and you have to have, a practice to it. And so yes,
Yes.
as my
Yeah.
kids get older, there will be a little more time for getting back to fiction. So yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you, Molly, so much. I want to make sure that everybody can connect with you. I know there's people listening and watching that all of this sounds fabulous, but they know they need a little bit of extra help. And who better to help them than you? So, just briefly run us through some of the things that we have resource wise from you, where we can
Sure.
get started, if we're just kind of dipping our toes in all that stuff.
Yeah, if we've never met and you're like, who is this Molly lady? Just go to my website, mollyzwinners.com. I have a free resource called The 3 Common Mistakes You Might Be Making on Your Website. And that's a really good place to get started, just to understand like the method to my madness. And that one's free. I also I have programs for organizers. I have a pro organizer content community where I actually each month deliver content like blog posts that are fully written and SEO friendly. So I do have materials and so forth like that. But really, also I'm on Instagram. You can always find me there too, of just Molly Winters writing on Instagram. So hang on.
Everything from community to done for you. I love it, Molly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. You've been so fabulous. I know that people listening, watching today are going to get tons of value out of today's episode, and I'll make sure that all the information is down in the description of the video, the podcast show notes. Molly, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So if you want to connect more with her, make sure that you head down to the description of the video and the podcast show notes. All of her information and her resources are there for you. So definitely take advantage of it, as she pointed out. And don't forget to connect with me for that one-on-one coaching call and take my Overlooked to Overbooked course. Listen, you guys, 40% of people in a survey that I just posted said that they struggle with getting clients, and that is exactly what Overbooked solves for you. So if you have any hesitation, you can always reach out to me to learn a little bit more about it. It's definitely a game changer for those who take it. You can check out my Pro Organizer Forms Pack. Just remember to head to ispeakorganized.com/courses. You can see all of the different course material, one-on-one coaching, and resources that I have available for you to really, truly help you make a go of this thing and do your business right, because I want you to succeed. Your success is my success. As always, make sure that you are in that Facebook group so you can get those questions answered and be part of a thriving and growing community. And beyond that, hopefully at this point you're subscribed. If you're not, hit that subscribe button. And then I just hope you have an awesome day. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.